Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
Less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy from the fans of this sorry side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. Whistle goes down. You like the Sutton United. Sutton United. Are through the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football, perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast. I'm your host Mike, and joining me on today's panel we've got Paul, Claire and Joe, and we're going to be talking about the win over Doncaster, and we're going to look forward to our trip to Newport on Saturday. Don't forget, as always, you can help with costs to support the show with one-off donations or regular subscriptions by joining us on Patreon. If you want to know more, look for the supporters page on the website, which is www.suttonpodcast.com, blah, blah, blah. You know all the rest of it. Thanks to everyone who's doing it. And Bolty's interview was on there for the last couple days, week or so, and it will be going live this week for general release. So that should be, I can't remember if I've done that for Tuesday or Wednesday, but one or the other, it'll be out this week. We're going to get the panel's thoughts, and we're going to start off with someone who hasn't been on the show for a little while. I'm sure he'll explain why it's been a little while. It's been about 3 months, Paul, since you were on, which was just after the Rochdale game, and that was the start of our upturn in form. You were supposed to be on a couple of weeks back, but how have you been, Paul? What happened?
Yeah, life's a little bit mad at the minute. Doesn't seem to get a spare hour. I seem to be working 7 days a week. And I agreed I would come on for the Harrogate game, not realising it was an away game that I couldn't make. So, yeah, it worked quite well. I think you said you had 3 guests that week. So
Yeah. I think it's like 2 days before you went.
You had 2 in it.
Yeah, wait, is it a away game? It's away game.
Yeah, it didn't go well, that.
So it has been a little while since you've won, and people have not been on for a little while as a cut-off point. I'm just asking people just to remind us who they are and kind of their little Sutton United history. So just remind everyone a little bit about yourself and I just said your Sutton United history. That was pointless. Crack on.
Okay, yeah, I've been coming along to Sutton for just over 30 years. Seen plenty of ups and downs. Obviously, what's happening in a minute is amazing, and seeing some very good players. So, trying to work on the Sutton United 11 players has been a bit of a task, to be honest with you. But yeah, as I say, over 30 years coming and loving it. Part of the family, great community of people, and I can't see me ever leaving.
Good stuff. And next, we will move on to Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hi.
Now, you were on for the 100th show a few weeks back.
I was, which was devoid of all technical difficulties.
Yeah. You did an impression of me.
Did I?
Hello, welcome to Sutton Podcast. I think you win.
I think that's my standard. Sure. I think that's my standard impression of everybody when I'm talking about them behind their back, so it's fine.
Except it wasn't, because it was going out live to everyone. I used it. Anyway, how have you been?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very busy. Lots going on. Juggling, obviously, a full-time job as well as SLO life, which is as frantic as you want it to be. But yeah, good stuff.
The reason I mentioned the cut-off is I was kind of thinking anyone who's not been on for 7 weeks, I'm going to ask them just to remind who they are. And yours was 48 days, because I think it was the New Year's Day. And I'm like, no, I'm not having that. You're going to have to go through it again. Especially
really?
Yeah, well, you're just slow. You've got to tell everyone. You've got to plug it. So go on. Tell us everyone And I'm punishing you for that impression.
For that impression, I'm really sorry. Yep, I'm Claire. I am the Sutton United supporter liaison officer. I've been a fan for probably coming up to 30 years. Like Paul, came once and then never left. Most people probably know my eldest brother, who's our photographer, sits on the side of the pitch snapping away. Came to a game with him and my dad, my other brother Dave, and never really left. And now find myself doing things behind the scenes as well, which is a wonderful privilege. So I am your fan representative on the senior management team. So if you ever have anything you want to discuss about your match day experience or just your interactions with the club, I'm your girl. Seek me out, and I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I will listen and definitely feed stuff back to people. So that's me.
Perfect. And finally for today, it's Joe. Now, Joe, you were only on 2 weeks ago, so you get to escape the whole "who are you?" I think I made you do it last time. You're more than welcome. But how have you been?
I'm very young right now because I've got 3 people have been here for 30 years and I've been here for a year. So I don't have much of a story to tell. I found it via FIFA and it doesn't seem very like a long, lovely story. Game for the first time, but yeah, I think I went to Barcelona. I went to Barcelona, which was nice. Yeah, I went with my school on a singing trip, which was very nice last weekend.
Excellent.
Yeah, a lot of studying, but obviously you guys we don't need to know that, do you? So, yeah, I've been good.
Well, I was just going to say, you get to tell the story in 30 years' time of how you started.
Oh, exactly. Will I be presenting it?
I don't know. I have no idea.
He won't be able to master the technology to do a podcast in 30 years' time, Joe.
A podcast?
I'll be doing the impression. I'll be doing the impression.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Mike.
Right, that was a wrap on the show. Goodbye. Right, so before we get into the match, we're going to chat about a couple of things. There's some club news. I didn't really understand this, but Ross has tried to explain it to me. The academy side has moved into the Merit League 1. So I sort of said, can you explain that? And he said, yeah, we finished in the top 5, so now we're going playing another league with other top 5 teams like Portsmouth and so on. I think he thought I knew a bit more than I did, but it's all good news. So the academy team's doing really, really well. Ladies team, brilliant win today. They won 5-0 and hopefully should be back at Gander Green Lane next Sunday. I think it's against Enfield, which is one of the teams in the relegation spots. I think I can't remember now, but basically they're not actually. But next Sunday, Gander Green Lane. Please come along. If there is any changes, check on the socials just in case there's any changes, but it should be because there's no men's team fixture next week. And now, the bit that I know you've all been desperate for and desperately waiting for, because it's all anyone talks to me about, it's the Ultimate 11. The Sutton United Talk Time on podcast Ultimate 11. So I have to make sure that's that, because it's not the best team. It's your favourite players for whatever reason. And we're going to talk in a second. We're going to start with Joe. But first of all, got to do the jingle. Mustn't forget the jingle.
And now, 125 years in the making. The Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Sutton United all-time Ultimate 11.
Okay, so either Claire's got some great ones or she's forgotten completely.
I completely forgot. So I'm scribbling, and I'll give you a couple, but I'm not giving you a full.
Okay, so Joe, I'm going to start with you because you've got less of a pool of players to choose from. So the first one, Joe, is the left wing, please, or left mid. It doesn't have to be left wing; it can be left mid.
Right, okay, so I did a bit of research, and the research was of I'm going for what I know. Because like whenever I looked up left mids for Sutton, I just got the current squad, and then when I looked up left mids for Sutton over the last 5 years, it just said midfield. What?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go for Will Randall because from what he's been here for a few years. Obviously, I saw a goal he scored against Bournemouth. I think it was amazing when I look back on it. But he's the what was I going to say? Oh yeah, he's the my Sutton shirt I got for my birthday last year. The Sutton shirt I got. Okay.
Excellent.
Right, round 11. I just thought, you know what? Why not Will Randall?
Go for that. Perfect. Claire, do you want to go next, or do you want Paul to go?
I think Paul should go. I'm not.
No, ladies first.
I just think my list is going to be very minimal because I'm terrible and I forgot to do my homework, for which I can only apologise. I mean, if I'm just going for generic, can I just go generic midfield?
As long as I can play on the left. I mean, to be fair, Steve chose Will Randall to go on the right last week, so I don't think it really makes any difference.
I think Chalmers knows that I'm going to pick Ugg in the midfield because that goes without saying. Because
you fancied him.
Yeah, he was my massive teenage crush, so I'm putting Paul Honey in every single option there. Here we go.
Okay. I look forward to the comments on that.
I absolutely die of shame if he ever sees this or hears this, or Bolty tells him probably. I don't know.
And Chalmers, who are you going to go for?
So I do find that I struggle a bit. I remember wingers, but remembering which wing they played on. I had a quick nose through the forum and where they were talking about things, and a player, Matt Hand, came up, and that was a name I'd completely forgotten about, but he was a tricky little player.
He was really good.
But the one I think I'm going to go for, and I think he played on the left, I could be wrong, I was going to go with Simon Quayle. That's going back a few years. He was about in sort of cup run in the mid-90s. Notts County, scored against Notts County. Wrigley scored for us. Tricky player. So I think I'm going to go with Simon Quayle.
Okay, no problem. And for striker, we're going to choose one of the strikers today as well. So Joe, who are you going to go for as a striker?
I've got a bit of a story, which feels odd to me. First game of the season earlier this year. I knew, but I was a bit nervous to say. Behind me, because we were sitting, I think we were sitting in the stand, and behind us to the right, who it was, but I was a bit nervous because if I got it wrong, and I wanted to get a picture with him. Tope Fadahunzi was like right there, and I didn't know if it was him. I've seen him play against Bromley or something. If that's not him, and I assume it's him. But then I was like, you know what, go. And then just had a chat with him. Games, and he's just it was great against Wimbledon, like playing with fans. He just seems like a really nice guy. Also a very good player as well. But it's not gonna make the, considering he's been there for 6 months. But it's an honourable mention. Perfect.
You never know, because if Claire picks Paul Honey again,
she's not.
We could be in all sorts of trouble. Go on, Claire. Who do you want to go for?
Who am I picking my striker? For completely different reasons. Because they were very good. And maybe I had a crush on them, Paul, but that's entirely different. I'm going for Matt Fowler.
Right? Yeah.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
It's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, hat-trick against Carshalton, doesn't it?
I mean, that was a cracking game, wasn't it?
Yeah, in a 6-0. Yeah,
in a 6-0, which Paul also scored in. So there we go.
Yeah. Wow, there are a lot of players to choose from. I mean, if Mike was choosing, Lenny Dennis would be out of his mouth in seconds. But I didn't really see Lenny play. He was a bit before my time. I think he may have. Did he have a little comeback, Lenny? I'm trying to remember.
Did he come back again?
I can't remember.
No.
I may be wrong. But I didn't see Lenny play. I saw very little of Paul McKinnon play either. Mm-hmm. But it feels right. I should pick Paul McKinnon, I think. I would love to, I was thinking Dom Felton would be getting a shout because he was a tricky, great, very skillful player. And Nazim Akrur, we had him for such a short amount of time, but what a player he was as well. The tricks, and he just tore Aylesbury apart that day when we were heading towards winning the title. But I think I have to go with Paul McKinnon. I saw very little of him playing, but club record scorer. No one's got close to it since. I don't think we can not have him on the list.
Okay, perfect. I'll put them out for everyone's votes, and we'll see what happens with Paul Honey on the left.
Whatever.
Oh, I'm just nodding along knowingly, like, yeah, that sounds like a good name, but I have no background to this whatsoever.
I'm going to be honest. When I start thinking of players, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this one. It's like literally always the forwards, because they're the ones you remember. It's only when people mention someone, you're like, yeah, but do you remember so and so and so and so as well? So, so it's been quite sort of interesting doing this.
You're lucky you didn't ask me for a goalkeeper, to be honest, because I was going to go completely outside of the box and say Vaggy, just purely on that one appearance that he put in for us against Eastbourne. So
the story behind it was great as well, though, wasn't it? I think you got a phone call on the Thursday or the Friday. It's like from John or Tony, and it's like, we haven't got a goalkeeper. Can you play?
That's what's going to happen is as we can move along. We're building the 11 now, and then as we go along each week, you guys can say, right, actually, I want to change this person for this person, and so on and so on. And then that's where the votes are going to come in to see. Can
you clarify in today's spiel that I didn't do my homework and I just picked a name at random?
Yeah, it's fine. People are coming to me going, what are these names all about? It's like, I didn't pick any of them, so let's not. No, it's not. But anyway, let's talk about the match. How did we feel there? I mean, let's start. Line up. No Rob, not even on the bench. Still no Louis. Some donut completely forgot that Omar was suspended, so he stuck him in his 11. And then at like 2:05 went, oh yeah. But what were you feeling at sort of as the lineup was announced? We'll start with you, Paul.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty solid. Sam Hart has been playing very well at left back, so no problems with Sam being in there at all. Obviously, Eastley was missing, and Harry hasn't played a huge amount lately, so I wouldn't say he's match fit quite. He's quite there yet. So I was a little bit concerned that we could be overrun a little bit in midfield, but other than that, yeah, I had no problems really. Kobe and I was going to say Jason, Kobe and Ben work well together. So yeah, I was happy. I was pretty happy.
Perfect. And Joe, what were your thoughts at the start?
Very similar. I'm happy to see Lee Angle start because he was great against Hart. Came on, he took shots, which is something it was really nice to see him actually especially we've often tried to put it back in the box or something. I had similar worries about match fitness, not for Harry but for Kobe, because obviously Kobe's just come back from injury. Just through I want to say Hartley, Swindon, and yesterday from injury. There's quite a lot of games in. Just coming back from it, but he might not play against Hartlepool. He definitely played against Swindon.
Yeah, I don't think he was against Hartlepool. Yeah.
No, but it's just that was my only thing. But obviously, considering how well he came in at the start of the season, I wasn't too worried. I thought it was pretty good. Like if because Rob's been out and Rob's been so ever present, I think that he's given us maybe a new dimension going forward. He was very anonymous yesterday. So yeah, I was looking.
Yeah. Claire, you're going to get a double. So if you had any thoughts on the lineup, but as Joe mentioned, the first little bit of the first half, it did look like we were struggling. As Paul said, Harry made the match fitness, Kobe made the match fitness, but then Matt kind of said afterwards, No, it wasn't any of that. It was I got it completely horribly wrong. So what were you kind of thinking?
Oh, the
first 20 minutes.
I mean, the first 20 minutes, you just kind of were a bit like, oh, this doesn't. It didn't feel good. I think because I kind of went in with my usual pessimism, despite kind of the buoyancy of Tuesday night, being a bit like, oh, I'd be happy with a draw here, and then I felt a bit like, oh, like this is not quite how I thought it was going to get started. Felt a bit slow. They definitely had the better of us. I think it was really actually, if listening to Matt's interview afterwards, it's really illuminating, and it takes a big man to turn around and say like, no, actually, I just completely got it wrong, and we changed it up, and it clearly worked. So it's good to see that that the prep goes in and doesn't always work, but you can change it up and get back into it. I think once those kind of first 20 minutes were over, it started to feel a little bit more promising, but I was a little concerned to start with.
Yeah, and Paul, yeah. So we did, as Claire was saying, we just started to come back into it, and I think you were next to me, so we were watching it, and they did have a lot of the ball. I think one of their fans on Twitter described it as all fart and no poo, which creased me up. It was like, well, you know exactly what the man means.
Yeah.
So, but we were saying they were cutting us open, but they weren't actually creating. I don't remember Jack making it a lot of saves, if he did make any, and their keeper did make a few saves coming up to half time, didn't they?
Yeah. No, I thought they had so much of the ball, as I say, early, and when it did change, when Matt changed it round, you could see. I mean, I didn't really realise what the changes were, if I'm honest with you. But I after that 20 minutes, it certainly we shored up, and we were a bit more solid, and we got much more into the game. And yeah, we certainly had a couple of chances. We certainly ended the half on the high, I think. And yeah, I was hopeful for the second half. What I said to a few people was there was a few 6 out of 10s out there, sort of at the start, if you like, But yeah, from then on, we I think we got everything we deserved, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and were you watch it from the opposite side of the pitch to us, Joe? Were you similar mindset that hopefully at half time Matt's going to sort it all out?
Yeah, I agree. First 20 minutes, I think that they're not really threatening around like our bot. I think they are half and kind of playing around the back, getting into the wing backs, and then they come forward a lot. And then that looked always, they weren't menacing. They were just always there. So I felt that we were never really at risk of conceding. I don't know if that is on. I don't think we're going to concede before half time. I just think they'll put pressure on us. But they never really kind of threatened Jack, as you said. I did think that the wingers, utterly, I forgot they were playing, especially. Like, we'll cut in a few times, but until like the midpoint second half that they were on the pitch, and I was like, Ali and Harry were literally playing everything. They were tackles, it was defensive midfield, and then the wingers just weren't a factor in the game. And I don't know whether that was a very different formation at the back, and it was just different like that. But it's at half time. I think the only thing that I'd say was just bring in the wingers, but what David and Rob can do, because we've seen it multiple times this season.
Yeah. So Claire, we were obviously hoping that Matt sorted it out at half time, full of the second half with a little bit of enthusiasm, and then they nearly score within seconds. Kobe again, talking about people being big enough. Kobe got a lot of praise for blocking the ball, and then he went, yeah, well, I was only making up for my own mistake, so it's only right that I do it. But how were you feeling then? Because it weren't great at that point.
No, I feel like it wasn't the best, was it? But I think it's been interesting reading loads of their comments. Like you say, some of the stuff on Twitter. My attention was drawn to their forum as well. Some of the comments on there. It's really interesting about how they think we play. or how we come across to other people. It was quite illuminating. I feel a bit like Joe. I mean, whilst I didn't necessarily think we were going to concede, there was just these moments of like, oh, that was close, but I never really felt like it was going to go anywhere. And then once we'd scored, it was just like it almost felt like a completely different team, and the winds had changed, and it was like, oh, there's a little bit of buoyancy here. And actually it felt like a bit like after that kind of that first goal on Tuesday of like, oh, here we go, we're going for the win this time. And off we went. So sometimes I just think we need to catch ourselves like a little bit, and then it, like, you know, the momentum comes back in. It's almost like they forget what they can do, and then suddenly the switch flips and they're like, oh yeah, and off we go. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the goal. Chalmers, kind of, we were right there, and what was quite amusing is that their guy was trying to wrestle with Ben for some bizarre reason, and trying to win the ball, and then in the end ended up dropping to the floor, and Ben had literally no one to attack the header, and beautifully across goal with Kobe, who more than made up for his little mistake by scoring another goal. How were we feeling at that point? Well, I know how you were feeling. You stand next to me. Tell everyone else how you were feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we were bright, you know. We were buzzing about, and we, as you say, come out the second half looking different, looking lively. We certainly deserved that win. We battled, you know. We were a battle inside, aren't we? And we'll give it our all. And I don't think we ever looked like we were gonna lose that game. It felt to me. Yeah. The second goal, you're always wary something might go wrong. You know, pessimist myself as well. But yeah, I just felt that we were in control, and they weren't doing much. A bit like the fart and poo comment. They weren't doing a lot really, and I don't think they ever really troubled us, not massively.
So, Joe, this is what supporting Sutton for over 30 years does to you. You look at everything pessimistic.
The three of us are so jaded. Yeah.
You're 3-0 up. You don't think it's just us. It's not. Don't worry. But you mentioned the wingers. What was quite funny is obviously we don't know what goes on in that dressing room. We're all experts, but we don't really know what we're talking about. And at some point in the second half, you could hear Matt screeching to Will to make it more narrow. So obviously we're sitting here going, well, no, why is Will not? Why are the wingers not going wide and stretching them? And Matt's instruction was clearly narrow. And Steve and I were like, you know, I wouldn't have said that's the right thing to do, but obviously we're paying to watch football, not being paid to manage football teams. So that's the big difference. But how were you kind of feeling at the 1-0? I mean, they made a sub for someone who clearly could launch the ball. Were you starting to worry at that point, or were you still confident at that point, Joe?
Pessimism's going to come in here. I wasn't particularly worried. I kind of agree with what Paul said. That's one of the most satisfying wins I think we've had this season. Such a performance of two halves, and the way that from like that 40, it was such a nice performance to watch, because apart from the moment where they fired over and Jack would have had no chance, but he just completely pulled it into the end. I just enjoyed watching. And maybe that's because I haven't seen enough to be worried, but I just I felt very at ease. I do like the way that we don't just use substitutes for the point of using substitutes and fresh legs, because I think we're playing in 60 minutes. There's no need for us to be playing substitutes. If anything, if 15th minute in the 60th minute, then we freshen up top, because to be honest, Donovan and Lee went to rag yesterday. They were all over everywhere. Like, he kind of played Omar's role a bit, but he won a lot, and then Lee was taking shots. It was really good to see. And then I just thought It was just a really, really win. I think that kind of we've only lost once. 17th. We've got the best form in the league now because someone's said yesterday, Steve is because they lost to Stockport. A really good start. I think that kind of yesterday's win summed that all up in a sense because I think it was kind of shows we've now got the depth and we've got the quality to switch it on if we needed to, and we kind of showed that against a team who quality to go up. They've got the depth, but they showed it. They showed it. +2 wasn't ridiculous in August, so I was more just enjoying it. But I feel like that could be. It's going to hit me at some point where I'm going to be really nervous, and I'll come on and be like, "Oh my I'm so nervous."
Yeah, we then had another nice little moment where their keeper went down injured, which I think it might have been a clash of heads, and their defenders tried to take the free kick really, really quickly whilst the keeper was laying down. And then both of those guys who tried to take the free kick really, really quickly had very long and detailed discussions with the referee about exactly what happened, but they weren't bothered about what had happened 5 seconds before when they were trying to take the free kick. So that was amusing. But who wants to go for that pass? Who wants to talk about that pass? Ali's pass.
I don't mind you.
Go on. Go for it.
I mean, yeah, defence splitting. They were pushing a little bit, weren't they? They were pushing to try and get something. But what a great ball. Dave, great pace. That sort of ball through for him was just perfect. Perfect weight. And he's got through, had so much time to pick his spot. And yeah, slotted it in. Game, set, and match sorted. Yeah, really good. Really good.
Beautiful counter attack. Claire, what were you?
I mean, yeah, I couldn't say any more than Chalmers, to be honest. I just think that the most poetic thing of it was, Joe alluded to, the miserable nature in which we lost to them at the beginning of the season. And that was a real stinger. And the journey home was tough after that one. And it felt, it was a little bit of a poetic justice moment there. I felt really like somewhat smugly satisfied because of it. Because I think last season, like, coming home from defeats didn't feel as bad because I was still in this little like we're in the EFL bubble, and every time like we lost, I was just kind of thought to myself, yeah, but we're in the Football League, like this is ridiculous, can't be too sad. Whereas like that hurt, but yeah, it just felt good, and it's always nice when your Apple Watch tells you that the sound has gone well over 100 decibels and you need to calm down.
We're calling an ambulance. Right. Okay, so we're gonna start to move on. I mean, we're up to 9th, which is mad. But obviously with the pessimist head, if all the teams below us win their games in hand, I think we're 12th or 13th. But that would require Grimsby winning 3 and Walsall winning 3 and Grimsby winning 4. So it's hopefully unlikely, but it is possible. But bad planning, because there's 3 of you, which means I'm going to have to put a choice in as well. Player of the day. So I will give you a second to start thinking about it, and we'll start with Claire because she's struggling.
Now watch me do my dance. I'm the player of the day.
Go on, Claire. Who's your choice?
I'm going for David Adjaboy.
Perfect. Chalmers?
I'm going to go with Lee Angol. I think he's looked good whenever I've seen him, and I think he brings something different to us up front.
I'm just going to say I had Lee on my list, but purely because of the fun about the substitutions. Because I think he went over to the bench expecting to be substituted on the 65th minute. And then again, when they put their subs board up at number 33, he went trotting over and it was like, no, that's their subs. You get back on. That creased me up a bit. And Joe, who's your fault?
You guys have taken mine. So my third choice. I feel bad. It's my third choice. Worthy contender. Joe Kizzy was kind of.
Joe Kizzy?
Putting in balls every single minute, so he was
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go with Kobe because I thought he was immense, and I watched a bit of the back today, and there was just a part in the second half where just he became like Ben with a magnet. The ball just literally was bouncing off his head everywhere. Not bouncing off his head, but it was attracted to his head, and he was knocking it forward. And I think they put us under a bit of pressure, and he did a big clearance, which took the ball out to someone on the wing, who then passed it into Ali, who then managed to do that pass. So he's got an assist to the assist to the assist. That counts. That's something. But that's it. I'll put that votes out as well. But we are running a little bit later than I expected, and we're going to start with the preview for the Newport County match, which is on Saturday. Now, they've got a game in between hand, but joining us now from the 1912 Exiles, because I'm still haunted by the very first time that he was on the show, and I called him the 1812 Exiles. But we've got Ed, who knows all about 4th Division football and how wonderful it is, and I'm sure he's delighted to have such an optimistic person on the show like Joe as well. Hello, Ed. How are you?
Noswaitha, Pav, Shumai. How are we all? Everyone okay?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Good.
How's it been for you this season so far?
Oh my God, how has it been this season for us? I mean, it's always a roller coaster with County, and this year has been no exception. So, if you cast your minds back to when it wasn't drizzly and cold outside, back in not even August, back in July, wasn't it, when we had the first match of the season in glorious sunshine, and at that point we played Sutton, and I think came away from the game at your place feeling relatively optimistic. We felt like we had this exciting young manager in James Rowbury, and he brought in a lot of players, and was talking about playing really scintillating, exciting football, and it just kind of never quite happened. We never really lived up to the second half of last season that we had under him. So he left the club in October, with us looking very out of sorts and on a very poor run of form, it has to be said. And that was a difficult decision for the club because he's a Newport boy. He wanted to do things the right way. He talked a good game. The fans loved him, but it wasn't working. And we were really not quite in a death spiral, but there was a real gloom around the place. And so the board prioritised bringing in a kind of pragmatic, experienced 4th Division manager. Enter stage left Graham Coughlin, aka Coco, who has come in, formerly at Bristol Rovers and Mansfield, and has kind of steadied the ship. For a good few months under his tenure, we basically just said, right, let's just go back to basics, make ourselves difficult to beat. We were not great to watch. We would, try and sneak a goal and then kick it into the corners. But it worked, and we managed to solidify a little bit. And then since January, we've kind of kicked on. And I was just looking, and in the last 5 games, we're right up there with you in terms of form, but also we've actually played a lot of the same teams. We both have played Swindon and Stevenage. We play Hartlepool's midweek, who I know you've not long played against. So coming into next Saturday's game, both of us will have been on a good run of form against broadly similar teams. So something's got to give at Rugby Parade on Saturday. I don't know what we'll give, but it feels as though we've pulled ourselves out of the mire. There's a nice gap between us and the 3 at the bottom. And I think, we're expecting that we'll finish the season comfortably mid-table. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster. But I think, people are much happier, and we've become much more entertaining to watch as well. So, I think the mood is generally quite good in South Wales now.
Well, we remember that match very much because it absolutely ruined our season because no fault for you guys, obviously, but Ben Goodliff injured himself and was out for ages. For me, it was a bit weird because I had to turn up late, and because someone had planned a party. Stupid child.
You basically.
No, it was not me.
All right, your wife.
I mean, in fairness, I'm over it, obviously, but in fairness, as was pointed out, when does the football season start in July? So it's like, okay, all right, fair enough. So I turned up late, and the match was still sort of. I think the first half had only just ended, and I couldn't work it out. And people say no, there was a really long injury. Ben's injured, and that kind of started a terrible run for us with injuries and whatnot. But we're over that now. But where you were sitting there describing the terrible football of kicking, scoring, and taking it to the corners, that sounds lovely, doesn't it, Claire? It's exactly what we look for. But who we? I mean, you may well have seen, you may not have seen. You've probably heard us. But when we spoke last time, we just sold David Ajiboye. And we've got him back. I know you love him.
And I see he's been in a rich vein of form for you again. I mean, he is the one Sutton player who I always immediately worry about because he's such a live wire, and he's certainly the man I think to watch on Saturday. It'll be a good test for our defence to see how they get on marking him. So that's a worry. The one thing I will say about County, we have improved significantly over the last few months. I still worry when we go behind in games. If we go into the leading games, we tend to be quite good then at closing it out. Bizarrely, we went behind twice against Stevenage and still emerged with a point. But generally speaking, we struggle a little bit when coming from behind in games. So first goal on Saturday is going to be really, really important. We won't be helped by the fact that we will have played Saturday, Tuesday, and then Saturday again. So we've got a midweek game against Hartlepool that was a postponement from earlier in the season. So our players are already looking pretty kind of dead on their feet. And I think come Saturday, we'll be rotating the squad again. So you may find that although it's a bad time to be playing us in terms of our form, it's quite a good time to be playing us just in terms of sheer volume of games. We probably are going to have to rotate again come Saturday, and particularly I think up top that may mean that we don't have quite the bite that we would want against you.
Yeah. So Joe, what are your thoughts? I mean, it's going to be win 9th. I don't think any of the midweek games can affect that. Newport, I think they're 19th, but they could be as high as 16th, depending on how results go. But what are your thoughts on Saturday? How do you see it going?
Right, this is the pessimism is going to
because when we played
in July, I don't think we were lucky I think a draw was the right outcome, but it wasn't a classic. And we were quite good at just playing that in the nicest possible way, that very traditional, and you just built. We didn't have the ball a lot, and I think when we don't have the ball a lot, we sometimes switch off. And that's my worry that when you go ahead, you play quite well. I'm worried that if you play the similar early lead, then that could be a bit of a problem. But then I think when we go behind, I think unless we kind of really back up our ideas, like if we play came back, we play really well, then that's fine. But then I'm also worried in the sense that we could just kind of switch off and it could become just them. A 1-0 win could occur. Then again, if we score first, it could go quite well. I think it could be for 2. I don't want to say 3 because we don't. But 2-0 win maybe. I think. I don't really know what to say. It's a bit of an odd game because I don't think you're warranted to be in 19th. I think because I went and saw. I went and saw your way during the season. I can't remember who it was against, but you guys were good, and I think you drew. I want to say. But no, you've put. I would see you somewhere near London. But you were good, and I'm worried that we might just not quite have the cutting edge. I think the games will help us. I will win and keep that slight optimism that we will win. But I think it could just as easily be a 1 draw. I don't really know what to say here. I'm kind of hoping someone else.
It's really hard when you've got when you've got two teams who are on such a good run as we're both on. We'll both become. I mean, assuming that we don't lose at Hartlepool, which isn't a given, but we will probably both be coming into this unbeaten in 5. You would imagine, and then it's kind of lap of the gods a little bit, and I think it will be an interesting kind of matchup of styles. We're slightly less like possession based as when we played you at the start of the season. We are more direct, more punchy now. You know, we do when we have possession, we try and do something quickly with it. Whereas under Rowbury, we were very much. It was like that Simpsons episode. You know, get the ball, hold it. You know, there was a lot of that going on. Whereas now it's like, right, if we get the ball, get it to midfield, get it to the front too. You know, that it's fairly, it's fairly direct. And that probably plays to the strengths of the players that we got.
Yeah, it was against Leighton Orient.
Oh, okay.
Because they had about like 30 shots.
Yep.
21 shots and 25 shots. We had about 3. And I remember that the second half.
Yeah, we are their bogey team. Yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of blocked.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. We have the hex over Orient. It doesn't matter how many points they're clear at the top of the table. We will always go there and manage to take something off them. It's just one of those weird things. I don't think we've got any kind of similar vibe against Sutton. Although I was saying to my 7-year-old just before I came on, I said, "Oh, we got Sutton next Saturday," and he said, "Oh, I hate Sutton." And I went, "Why? No one hates Sutton. They're like the most benign team in the division." And apparently, according to my 7-year-old, he hates Sutton because you're show-offs. So I don't know what that means. I couldn't get any more out of him, but he's starting a beef with you. So there you go.
Wow. I like him.
Are we allowed to start beef with a 7-year-old?
Yeah, go.
No.
Yeah,
cool.
You can do what you like.
If they schedule a party on the opening day of the season, then yeah, probably.
She's only 5. Yeah,
5. It's all right. She's 5. Claire, how do you see it going?
I possibly going to sit on the fence just as much as Joe. Really, I think when you've got 2 teams that are in such good form, like Ed says, it can either make for a really exciting match because you both come into it really up for it and want to kind of take something from it, or it goes completely the other way and it just becomes this bit of like a damp squib kind of thing, doesn't it? And it will be a 0-0 draw and we'll all be very bored by the end of it. But I'd like to say that we're going to just slightly clinch it. There we go. 1-0.
It's a better question, not what you think will happen, but would Sutton take a point from it? Because when we had Stevenage midweek last week, they went ahead, we equalised. They went ahead, we equalised. But there was kind of just a feeling in the second half that probably a point suited both teams quite well. It kept our run going. It kind of kept their run going a little bit. I just wonder whether there might be something similar against Sutton, that for you guys, a point on the road isn't a bad result. It's another point for us that moves us towards mid-table. Is it going to be one of those games where on 60 minutes, both teams are like, should we just have a bit of a non-aggression pact here?
I think there's probably an element of that, isn't there? But I'm going to say what I think Mike's thinking. We only need 3 to get to that magic 50. So I'd like 3, please.
Although last year when we got really close to the magic 50, it took us for ages, and I think we drew and started on that. But yeah, Paul, I mean, Matt always says respect the point on the road. I know one of the people in the forum hates the phrase of "would you take a draw now?" But would you?
Yeah, I'll take a point. I think I'll be happy with the point, and if we get 3, it's a bonus. It's saying you know, Hartlepool away on a Tuesday night is going to be tough. They're not going to get a decent night's sleep Wednesday night, are you? Tuesday night, sorry. And it could affect the game for them, you know. So if we sneak it and claim all 3, I'm not going to say no, but yeah, I think it could be a close affair, and we'd take a point if we had to.
Perfect. Right, before we wrap up this segment, there is still one really, really important question for Ed, and I know it's a question close to everyone's heart. What is the pub everyone should go to? It's pub of the week time.
Right. Do you know what? I'm feeling gentle. Dear God.
I told you it got better.
All about it, didn't he?
You have too much fun with those voice changes.
Well, I'm going to be generous because, unlike my son, I like Sutton as a club. So I'm going to give you not just one pub, but 2 good pubs to go to, and they're opposite each other. So if you head to the High Street in Newport, you've got the best of both worlds, right? So on the one side of the street, you've got Tiny Rebel, which is a local Newport-based brewery, great range of proper interesting beers, nice food, very modern. And over the road from that, you have this sort of mock Tudor type effect place called Ye Old Moringa House, which is a Sam Smith's pub, and I love Sam Smith's pubs. The beer's always nice, good vibe in them, and run by lovely people. So you've got those two over the road from each other. So you either want to go to the Moringa or you want to go to Tiny Rebel, but they're both lovely, and you will do well.
Perfect. And I forgot to mention, we didn't actually do a proper shout out for your podcast. When's the Sutton preview likely to be on?
I don't know. We've done loads of stuff recently. I think we haven't worked out whether we're going to do a specific Sutton preview or whether we'll kind of tie it in with if we do something after Hartlepool's on Tuesday night. Midweek away games always like screw us over because we're always like trying to find someone who can give us a review of the game if we're not at it. And our usual northern correspondent is as well as Hollybobs this week. So so if we don't do a full preview episode, then I might just do a Twitter thread of some of the things I've learned from this discussion. So we will tag you in that.
They sit on the fence.
That'll be a short thread, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, we will wrap it up there. I've kept you all much longer than I expected. I say that every time I talk on this show. But thanks a lot to everyone for your time. Thanks for everyone to listen. Don't forget you can subscribe, like, follow, share, comment on all the socials. That's Sutton Podcast. And we will see you soon. And take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
United! 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 United!
Right. I'm going to have to let you all go because unbelievably it stopped me recording it again today. You're all still recorded. So I've got it. I got now illegally download it off YouTube again. Yay. Yes. Well, thank you all very much.
Look at panic on your face earlier.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care, folks.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.